The SOS signal. The Galactic Alliance was used to peace. For centuries, the Great Council of Planets had worked together, ensuring no wars, no chaos, and no unnecessary deaths. But one quiet evening aboard the Alliance's central space station, a strange signal broke the calm. It was a distress call, an SOS, but it was unlike any they had received before. The message was scrambled, the words distorted as if traveling through broken space. Yet, amidst the static, one line was clear. "Save us. The Deathworlders will know." The operators froze. The word Deathworlders was rarely spoken in the galaxy. It referred to the most feared and misunderstood beings, humans. They were known for their strange biology and unmatched survival instincts, having evolved on a planet filled with danger, war, and death. The signal was immediately flagged as top priority and sent to the Council. Within minutes, high-ranking officials gathered in the station's command room. Among them was Captain Zara Kale, a decorated officer and expert in ancient communication signals. Zara was known for her sharp mind and her willingness to take risks when others hesitated. "This signal," she said, pointing to the hologram showing the scattered message, "is over 200 years old. It's been bouncing through space for centuries, lost until it finally reached us." The room buzzed with whispers. "Where is it coming from?" an elder counselor asked, his voice uneasy. Zara tapped the screen, revealing the coordinates. A collective gasp filled the room. The source of the signal was a desolate sector called the Veil of Shadows. This region was shrouded in mystery and fear, a place where ships disappeared without a trace. "Sirian 5, Zara said, her voice steady. "A death world." The word hung heavy in the air. Death worlds were planets so hostile that no species could survive there, except perhaps the humans. Sirian 5 had been declared uninhabitable centuries ago after every colonization attempt ended in disaster. The idea of someone surviving there, let alone sending an SOS, seemed impossible. "Captain," the council leader said cautiously, "why would anyone send a message from a dead planet? And why involve the Deathworlders?" Zara's sharp eyes studied the flickering message again. "We won't know until we investigate." The room fell silent. The counselors exchanged nervous glances. Sending a fleet to Sirian 5 was dangerous. If the signal was genuine, it could be a call for help. But if it was a trap, they could lose an entire crew. "I'll go," Zara said firmly. Her voice carried the weight of determination. "We cannot ignore this. If someone is alive and needs help, it's our duty to respond. If this is a trap, I'll find out." The council debated for hours. Some wanted to ignore the signal and leave Sirian 5 alone. Others feared the consequences of involving humans, but Zara's logic was undeniable. Ignoring the signal could mean leaving survivors to die, or worse, missing the chance to uncover a threat that could endanger the entire galaxy. Finally, permission was granted. Zara would lead a small reconnaissance fleet to Sirian 5. Their mission: locate the source of the SOS, assess the situation, and report back. The fleet departed 3 days later. Zara stood on the bridge of her ship, the Lumina, as it approached the Veil of Shadows. The stars around them seemed dimmer, as if the darkness of the sector swallowed their light. Entering Sirian 5's orbit, the navigator announced. Zara leaned forward, her heart pounding. The planet below was a stormy wasteland. Thick black clouds swirled over jagged mountains and vast deserts. The surface glowed faintly from cracks in the ground, hinting at volcanic activity. "Are there any life signs?" Zara asked. The science officer scanned the planet. "Faint readings, Captain. Something is alive down there, but it's hard to pinpoint." Zara nodded. "Prepare the landing team. I want answers." As the team descended in a smaller shuttle, the atmosphere grew heavier. The shuttle rocked violently as it passed through the storms. Zara gripped her seat, her sharp gaze fixed on the controls. "Hold it steady," she ordered. The shuttle broke through the clouds, revealing the harsh terrain of Sirian 5. They landed near the source of the signal, a ruined structure half buried in ash and debris. The air was thick and hot, making every breath feel like a struggle. The team activated their suit's filters and stepped out. Zara's boots crunched against the dry, cracked ground as she led the way. The ruins were massive, with broken pillars and walls covered in strange carvings. In the center stood a tall beacon, glowing faintly and emitting the SOS. "It's ancient," Zara whispered, running her hand over the carvings. But someone kept it working. As they examined the beacon, a low hum filled the air. Zara froze. "Do you hear that?" she asked. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled. A hidden door near the beacon slid open, revealing a dark tunnel. From the shadows, a small spherical object floated out, its surface smooth and metallic. It spoke in a mechanical voice. "You should not have come." The team raised their weapons, but Zara held up a hand. "Who are you? Why did you send the signal?" The sphere pulsed, its voice filled with urgency. "They are coming. Only the Deathworlders can save us." The ground shook again, more violently this time. The sphere's lights flickered as it floated back into the tunnel, which sealed shut. "Captain," one of the crew shouted. "Something's moving underground." Zara clenched her jaw. Whatever was happening, they were no longer alone on Xirion 5. "Back to the shuttle," she commanded. "Now." As they ran, the planet seemed to come alive. The ground cracked, shadows shifted, and an unseen force seemed to be watching their every move. Zara's mind raced. Who sent the signal? What did they mean by "they are coming"? And why were humans, the Deathworlders, the key to it all? One thing was certain: the answers would not come easily. Arrival at Xirion 5. The shuttle soared through the turbulent skies of Xirion 5, its thrusters groaning under the strain of the dense atmosphere. Captain Zara Kale gripped her seat tightly, her eyes fixed on the viewport. The landscape below was a nightmare, a barren wasteland of jagged rock formations, glowing fissures, and violent storms that seemed to pulse with unnatural energy. "Stabilizers holding at 67%, Captain," the pilot reported, his voice tight with tension. "If this turbulence gets worse, we won't last long." "We'll make it," Zara said firmly. "Just get us to the surface." The shuttle descended toward the source of the faint energy reading. As they broke through the thick storm clouds, the ruins of a massive city came into view. The structures were unlike anything Zara had seen. Towering spires twisted into impossible shapes, their surfaces etched with glowing symbols. The ruins seemed to hum faintly, as if alive. "What kind of civilization built this?" whispered Lieutenant Garin, the team's scientist. "One that didn't survive," Zara replied, her voice low. The shuttle touched down on a flat expanse near the center of the ruins. The team disembarked, their boots sinking slightly into the ashy ground. The air was thick and metallic, forcing everyone to rely on their suits' oxygen filters. "Energy readings are stronger here," Garin said, scanning the area with a handheld device. "It's coming from that structure." He pointed to a massive obelisk at the heart of the city. The obelisk pulsed with a faint blue light, its surface covered in intricate carvings. At its base, a circular console flickered weakly, as if on the verge of shutting down. Zora approached the console, her hand hovering over the glowing symbols. "This must be the source of the SOS," she said. "Garin, can you decode this?" Before he could respond, a low rumble echoed through the ruins. The ground beneath them vibrated, sending small rocks tumbling from the nearby structures. "Seismic activity," one of the crew members asked nervously. "No," Zura said, narrowing her eyes. "This feels different." The hum from the obelisk grew louder, and the blue light intensified. Suddenly, a holographic figure materialized above the console. It was humanoid but clearly alien. Its elongated limbs and glowing eyes gave it an ethereal, almost ghostly presence. "You are not the Deathworlders," the figure said, its voice echoing in a strange melodic tone. Zara stepped forward cautiously. "Who are you? Did you send the SOS?" The figure tilted its head, as if studying her. "We are the last echoes of the Xirian collective. Our message was meant for the Deathworlders. Only they can stand against the Eviscerators." The word sent a chill down Zora's spine. Eviscerators. What are they? The hologram's form flickered, its voice growing strained. Biological exterminators, created to cleanse. They wiped us out. They cannot be stopped by conventional means. Only the Deathworlders possess the will to resist. Before Zora could ask more, the ground shook violently. Cracks spread through the ruins, glowing with an ominous red light. "Captain, we've got movement underground," Garin shouted, his scanner blaring alarms. The hologram turned toward the obelisk, its expression somber. "You have awakened them. They will come for you now. Run." The figure vanished, and the obelisk's light dimmed. "Back to the shuttle," Zara ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. The team sprinted through the ruins as the ground cracked and heaved beneath their feet. Strange, chittering noises echoed from the fissures, growing louder with each passing moment. "Captain, look." Zara turned to see something clawed its way out of the ground. The creature was massive, a nightmarish fusion of metal and flesh. Its body glistened with a black, oily substance, and its eyes glowed with a crimson light. Razor-sharp appendages clicked and slashed as it let out a piercing mechanical screech. "Open fire," Zara commanded. The team unleashed a barrage of plasma shots, but the creature moved with terrifying speed. It dodged the attacks effortlessly, its claws tearing through the ruins as it advanced. "Fall back. Now," Zara shouted, firing her weapon as she retreated. They reached the shuttle just as another creature emerged, then another. The ground seemed alive with movement, the creatures pouring out of the fissures like a swarm. "Take off," Zara yelled as the last team member boarded. The shuttle's thrusters roared to life, lifting them off the ground. One of the creatures leaped, its claws scraping the hull before it fell back into the chaos below. From the viewport, Zara watched as the ruins were consumed by the swarm. The creatures moved with precision, their glowing eyes fixed on the fleeing shuttle. "What were those things?" one of the crew asked, his voice shaking. Zara didn't answer. Her mind was racing, trying to piece together the hologram's warning. The Eviscerators were not just predators. They were weapons, designed for one purpose: destruction. As the shuttle broke through the atmosphere, Zara's gaze fell on the glowing obelisk, now barely visible beneath the swarming creatures. She knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The forgotten truth. The Lumina orbited high above Xirian 5, its crew shaken but alive. Captain Zara Kale stood on the bridge, staring at the planet's surface through the viewport. From this distance, it seemed peaceful, the storm clouds hiding the horrors they had just escaped. But Zara knew better. Her mind replayed the hologram's words. "The Eviscerators. Only the Deathworlders can resist." What did they mean by that? She muttered under her breath. Lieutenant Garin approached her cautiously, holding a datapad. "Captain, I've analyzed the data we collected. The creatures, the Eviscerators, are biomechanical constructs. They're not natural. They were designed." "Designed by who?" Zara asked, turning to face him. Garin hesitated. "I'm not sure, but their programming is clear. They're exterminators. They're built to adapt, evolve, and destroy anything that poses a threat." "Why Xirian 5? Garin tapped on the datapad, bringing up an ancient map of the galaxy. Xirian 5 wasn't just a random death world. It was once the capital of a highly advanced civilization, the Xirian Collective. According to the hologram, the Eviscerators wiped them out. But here's the strange part. The Xirians didn't just die. They fought back. Zara raised an eyebrow. "And they lost," Garin said, his voice grim. "But before their extinction, they built something. I believe the obelisk was part of it. A weapon, maybe, or a message. Either way, it was meant to call for help, and they called the Deathworlders. Zara's expression hardened. Humans. Garen nodded. The Xyrians must have known about humanity's reputation, our resilience, our ability to survive in environments most species would find impossible. The bridge fell silent as the weight of the revelation settled over the crew. Humans, feared and avoided by most of the galaxy, were not just survivors. They were the galaxy's last hope against an unstoppable enemy. Zara's thoughts were interrupted by an urgent alert from the ship's communications officer. "Captain, we've picked up a transmission. It's from the United Galactic Alliance headquarters." "Put it through," Zara said, her voice steady. The holographic image of a UGA counselor appeared in front of her. His expression was stern, his tone accusatory. "Captain Kell, you were instructed to investigate the SOS and report back. Instead, you've provoked a threat that could jeopardize the entire galaxy." "With respect, Counselor," Zara replied, "we didn't provoke anything. The threat was already there. We're just the first to see it." The Counselor's eyes narrowed. "And yet, you've involved humans. The Deathworlders." Zara stepped forward, her voice firm. The Xyrians' message was clear. The Eviscerators are coming, and only the Deathworlders can stop them. We need their help. The Counselor shook his head. "You risk igniting a war. Do you know what humans will demand in return for their assistance? Power. Control. They'll use this crisis to assert dominance over the galaxy." Zora clenched her fists. "And what's your alternative? Do nothing. Let the Eviscerators wipe us all out. Humans may not be perfect, but they're our best chance." The Counselor's image flickered, his expression unreadable. "Proceed with caution, Captain. The Alliance will not tolerate recklessness." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Zara fuming. Later, in the ship's war room, Zara gathered her senior officers to strategize. "Our mission has changed," she said, pointing to a holographic map of Xyrian 5. "We need answers, and we're not going to get them from the UGA. The Xyrians left behind something important, something they believe could stop the Eviscerators. We're going back." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Captain," Garen said, "the obelisk was a beacon, but it's not the only one. I've detected similar energy signatures across the planet. If we can access them, we might uncover more about what the Xyrians left behind." "Good," Zara said. "Prepare a landing team. We'll split into squads and investigate each site. Time is not on our side." As the Lumina repositioned itself over Xyrian 5, Zora's private communicator buzzed. She answered it, surprised to see the face of a grizzled human officer, Commander Jace Riker, from Earth's elite fleet. "Captain Kale," Riker said, his voice rough but steady, "we intercepted your transmission. Seems you've kicked a hornet's nest down there." Zara raised an eyebrow. "And you're offering to help?" Riker smirked. "Let's just say we don't like being left out when someone calls for Deathworlders. We're already en route. ETA. 36 hours. Zara hesitated. The UGA's warnings about human involvement echoed in her mind, but she couldn't deny the relief she felt. "We could use the help," she admitted. "Good," Riker said. "Just don't blow the place up before we get there." As night fell on Xyrian 5, Zora's landing team made their way toward the nearest energy signature. The air was unnaturally quiet, the planet's storms subdued. "Captain," Garen whispered, "I'm picking up movement again. Multiple life forms. Fast." "Stay sharp," Zora said, gripping her plasma rifle. The team reached the ruins of another obelisk, smaller than the first but similarly covered in glowing symbols. Garen began scanning the structure, his hands trembling with urgency. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a deafening roar. From the shadows emerged a towering eviscerator, its metallic body gleaming in the faint light. Behind it, smaller creatures swarmed, their eyes glowing red. Defensive positions, Zara shouted, firing her weapon. The team fought valiantly, but the creatures were relentless. Just as it seemed they would be overwhelmed, a massive explosion lit up the sky. From above, Earth's warships descended, their weapons unleashing devastating blasts on the swarm. Zara watched in awe as the Deathworlder fleet engaged the eviscerators with a ferocity she had never seen. Riker's voice crackled over her comm. Told you we'd make an entrance. Now let's clean this mess up. Zara couldn't help but smile. For the first time since receiving the SOS, hope flickered in her heart. But deep down, she knew the battle was far from over. The eviscerators were only beginning to awaken. The Eviscerator Awakening. The Deathworlder fleet descended like a storm over Xerion 5, their ships cutting through the chaos with precise coordination. Commander Jace Riker's flagship, the Ironclad, hovered above the planet's atmosphere, its weapons unleashing devastating energy blasts that tore through the swarming eviscerators. On the ground, Captain Zara Kale and her team took cover behind the ruins of the smaller obelisk. The wreckage of destroyed eviscerators littered the area, their biomechanical bodies twitching unnervingly, as if refusing to fully die. Deathworlders don't mess around, muttered Lieutenant Garin, reloading his plasma rifle. Focus, Garin, Zara snapped, her eyes scanning the battlefield. We still need to secure this site. A message crackled over her comms. It was Riker. Captain Kale, we've softened the area. Your move. But keep your eyes open. These things aren't your usual cannon fodder. They're adapting, Zara replied grimly. Exactly. Don't let your guard down. My Marines are landing nearby to reinforce you. The comm cut off as Zara gestured for her team to move forward. They approached the obelisk cautiously, weapons raised. The glowing symbols on its surface pulsed in an erratic pattern, as if responding to the surrounding chaos. Garin, get to work, Zara ordered. The scientist knelt by the console at the base of the obelisk, his fingers flying over the interface. This one's more advanced than the first, he said, his voice filled with awe. It's a relay. It's connected to a network of similar structures across the planet. What's the purpose? Zara asked. Before Garin could answer, the obelisk emitted a piercing, high-pitched sound. The ground beneath them trembled violently, and a massive fissure split open just meters away. Captain, one of the crew shouted. From the fissure emerged a colossal eviscerator, larger than any they had seen before. Its body was covered in jagged black plating that absorbed the faint light around it. It moved with terrifying precision, its clawed limbs slicing through the air. Fall back, Zara yelled, opening fire. The creature's crimson eyes locked onto the team. With a roar, it lunged forward, its claws narrowly missing Zara as she rolled out of the way. Plasma blasts struck its armor, but the shots seemed to have little effect. This isn't working, Garin shouted, retreating toward the ruins. Above them, Riker watched the scene unfold on a tactical display aboard the Ironclad. His brow furrowed as he analyzed the eviscerator's movements. Adaptive armor, he muttered. These things are learning how to counter our weapons. Orders, sir, asked his second-in-command. Deploy the Archangel units, Riker said. We need to buy Cal's team time to activate that obelisk. Moments later, dropships screamed through the atmosphere, releasing Earth's elite mechanized infantry, soldiers in advanced combat exosuits designed for high-risk environments. The Archangel units hit the ground with thunderous impact, immediately engaging the eviscerator. Their weapons were specialized for adaptability, their energy rounds shifting frequencies with each shot. The colossal creature stumbled as the Archangels coordinated their attacks, exploiting weak points in its armor. Kel, this is Riker. His voice boomed over the comm. You've got backup. Do what you need to do. At the obelisk, Garin frantically worked on the console as Zara, and the remaining team held their ground. Garin, how much longer? Zara demanded, her plasma rifle overheating as she fired at smaller eviscerators closing in. "I'm almost there," he shouted, sweat dripping down his face. "This isn't just a relay. It's a key to something buried deeper. If I can unlock it." "Just do it," Zara interrupted, spinning around to shoot an eviscerator leaping toward him. With a final keystroke, the obelisk emitted a low hum. The glowing symbols pulsed faster, and a beam of blue light shot upward into the sky. "What did you do?" Zara asked, her voice tense. Garen looked at her, wide-eyed. "I activated the planetary defense system. Or part of it." The ground quaked violently as ancient machinery buried beneath the surface began to stir. Massive panels of Earth shifted and collapsed, revealing hidden structures that had lain dormant for centuries. From one of the newly exposed fissures, a sphere of light emerged, surrounded by a protective metallic casing. It floated toward Zara and her team, scanning them with an array of glowing lines. "Identify yourself," the sphere said in a voice that was calm yet commanding. Zara stepped forward. "Captain Zara Kale of the United Galactic Alliance." "Who, or what, are you?" "I am Sentinel Prime," the sphere replied. "Guardian of the Xyrian Armory. You have awakened the last defense of the Xyrian Collective." "Defense against what?" Zara asked, though she already suspected the answer. The sphere's light dimmed slightly. "The eviscerators were designed to purge. They have no end, no mercy. If you are here, they have begun their reactivation cycle. This planet is the first. They will spread." Zara's stomach sank. "How do we stop them?" "The Deathworlders," Sentinel Prime replied. "You possess the will and the strength to wield the Xyrian weapon. But the cost will be great." Overhead, the battle intensified as more eviscerators emerged from the fissures. The Deathworlder fleet rained fire from above, but the creatures continued to adapt, their armor growing stronger with every attack. Riker's voice came over Zara's comm. "Kale, we're losing ground up here. Whatever you're doing, do it faster." Zara turned back to Sentinel Prime. "What weapon? Where is it?" The sphere floated toward the obelisk. "The weapon lies at the planet's core. Activating it will destroy the eviscerators. But it will also destroy Xyrian 5. Zara's breath caught. "There are still answers here. Things we need to learn." "Your choice is clear," Sentinel Prime said. "The eviscerators will not stop. Decide quickly. Time is running out." Zara's comm buzzed again. This time, Riker's voice was grim. "Kel, we've got incoming. Something big. You need to finish this. Now." As the team stared at the chaos unfolding around them, Zara knew there was no turning back. The fate of the galaxy rested on their decision. The Deathworlder fleet arrives. The battlefield above Xyrian 5 was chaos. The Deathworlder fleet, led by Commander Jace Riker's Ironclad, waged a desperate battle against the eviscerators. Earth's ships, designed for high-intensity warfare, bristled with weapons that could adapt to any enemy. But the eviscerators were evolving faster than anticipated. Below, on the planet's surface, Captain Zara Kale stood near the glowing obelisk, staring at the strange sphere called Sentinel Prime. Its words echoed in her mind. "The weapon lies at the planet's core. Activate it, and the eviscerators will fall. But Xyrian 5 will be destroyed." "Captain," Lieutenant Garen said, his voice trembling as he glanced at the growing swarm of eviscerators closing in. "What do we do? If we wait any longer, we're finished." Zara tightened her grip on her rifle, her eyes darting between the encroaching creatures and Sentinel Prime. She activated her comm. "Riker, we've located a planetary weapon. It's buried deep in the core, and it's the only chance we've got." Riker's voice came through, laced with static. "What's the catch?" "It'll destroy the planet," Zara replied grimly. "We need time to access it and get clear before it activates." "Time isn't something we've got a lot of, Captain," Riker said. "More of these things keep pouring out. They're targeting our ships now. Whatever you're doing, Do it fast. Zara turned back to Sentinel Prime. How do we access the weapon? The sphere floated closer. The core's activation chamber lies beneath the central obelisk. Only those with the resolve to wield its power can proceed. As if in response, the ground rumbled, and a large circular platform rose from beneath the obelisk, revealing a glowing blue passage leading deep underground. Of course, it's underground, Zora muttered. She turned to her team. Garen, you're with me. The rest of you stay here and hold the perimeter until the Deathworlder reinforcements arrive. Descending into the passage felt like stepping into another world. The walls pulsed faintly with an organic energy that seemed alive. The air grew hotter with each step, and Zora could feel the weight of the planet pressing down on them. Captain, this place, Garen said, his voice filled with awe. It's like the Xyrians built their entire civilization around this weapon. Everything they left behind points here. And they sacrificed everything to hide it, Zora replied, her tone heavy. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber, at the center of which stood a towering crystalline structure, pulsating with an intense blue light. It was surrounded by intricate machinery, glowing symbols, and floating platforms. This is it, Garen whispered, approaching the structure cautiously. Before they could move further, Sentinel Prime appeared, its light brighter than before. This is the heart of the Xyrian weapon. Activating it will unleash a wave of destruction that will consume all eviscerators in this sector. But it will also destroy Xyrian 5, Zora said, her voice low. Yes, Sentinel Prime confirmed. The Xyrians understood the cost. Do you? Zara hesitated. Destroying the planet meant losing any chance to learn more about the Xyrians, their history, and the eviscerators. But if she didn't act, the galaxy would face certain annihilation. Her comm buzzed. It was Riker. Kale, we've got a problem. The eviscerators have evolved their weapons. They're hitting us hard. Shields are failing on multiple ships. Whatever you're doing down there, we need it now. Zara's jaw tightened. We're activating it. She looked at Garen. Do it. As Garen began working on the activation console, the chamber started to hum with power. The crystalline structure glowed brighter, and the entire chamber seemed to vibrate. Captain, I'm detecting interference, Garen said, frowning at the console. The eviscerators must know what we're doing. They're trying to stop us. Zora's comm crackled. Kale, this is Riker. We're dropping reinforcements to your position. Expect heavy resistance topside. At that moment, a loud screech echoed through the chamber. Zara turned to see a group of eviscerators emerging from the tunnel, their crimson eyes fixed on the crystalline structure. They're here, Zara shouted, raising her rifle. She and Garen opened fire, but the creatures moved with terrifying speed. Zara's shots tore through one eviscerator, but two more replaced it, their claws slicing through the air. Keep them off me, Garen yelled as he worked furiously at the console. Zara gritted her teeth, switching to her plasma grenades. She lobbed one toward the group of eviscerators, the explosion briefly lighting up the chamber. Above ground, the ironclad led the Deathworlder fleet in a desperate last stand. Riker barked orders as his ships fired relentlessly, each blast aimed at holding back the swarming eviscerators. All ships form a defensive ring around the planet, Riker commanded. We're not letting a single one of these things get past us. The Deathworlder Marines on the surface fought bravely, their exosuits giving them an edge against the smaller eviscerators. But the creatures were relentless, adapting to every tactic. Back in the chamber, Garen shouted, "It's done." The crystalline structure roared to life, sending out a massive pulse of energy that shook the entire chamber. Sentinel Prime's voice echoed through the room. Sequence initiated. Evacuate immediately. Let's move, Zara yelled, grabbing Garen's arm and pulling him toward the tunnel. As they ascended, the ground shook violently, and the heat intensified. The glow from the obelisk above grew brighter, casting eerie shadows across the ruins. Zara's comm crackled. Kale, get to the extraction point. Now. The Deathworlder fleet began pulling back as the crystalline weapon charge. Riker's voice rang through the comms. All ships, brace for impact. Whatever they've activated is going to change the game. Zara and Garen reached the surface just as the first wave of energy erupted from the obelisk. The eviscerators froze in place, their bodies disintegrating as the wave passed through them. The ruins began to collapse, and Zara's team scrambled onto a waiting dropship. As they ascended, the entire surface of Xerion 5 glowed with an intense blue light. From orbit, the Deathworlder fleet watched as the planet imploded, sending a shockwave that obliterated the remaining eviscerators. The wave continued outward, clearing the sector of any trace of the biomechanical menace. In the silence that followed, Zara stared out the viewport of the dropship, her heart heavy. Xerion 5 was gone, and with it, the secrets of the Xerion Collective. But they had won, for now. Secrets of Xerion 5. The destruction of Xerion 5 left a massive void in space where the planet once stood. The Deathworlder fleet hung in orbit, their massive ships battered but intact. From her seat aboard the Lumina, Captain Zora Kale watched the shimmering remnants of the planet fade into the void, her heart heavy with the cost of their victory. The battle was over, but the sense of unease remained. The eviscerators had been annihilated, for now. But Zara couldn't shake the feeling that their true nightmare had only just begun. Commander Jace Riker's face appeared on the Lumina's central display. His usual confident smirk was gone, replaced by a grim expression. "Good work, Kale," Riker said, his tone gruff. "But we got a new problem." Zara leaned forward, her brow furrowing. "What kind of problem?" Riker tapped a few keys, sending a data stream to the Lumina. The holographic display lit up, showing scans from the moments before Xerion 5's destruction. These readings came from the planet's core, Riker explained. There was more than just the weapon down there. The scans revealed a massive structure deep within the core, far larger than the crystalline weapon. It resembled an enormous containment field, surrounded by ancient machinery. "What is that?" Zara asked, her voice tinged with dread. Riker's jaw tightened. A prison. The hidden prison. Zara and her team pored over the data aboard the Lumina. Sentinel Prime had mentioned a weapon, but it had said nothing about a prison buried alongside it. Lieutenant Garen paced the room, holding his datapad tightly. If this was a prison, then the Xerions didn't just build a weapon to destroy the eviscerators. They were trying to keep something far worse locked away. Zara frowned. The weapon destroyed Xerion 5. Whatever was in that prison should be gone. "Should be," Garen said, stopping to face her. "But look at this." He brought up the final moments of the energy wave emitted by the weapon. Embedded in the wave was a faint signal, an encoded transmission pulsing outward. "It's a distress call," Garen said. Zara's stomach sank. Who would send a distress call from a prison? Garen hesitated. Not who. What? A new threat. As the Deathworlder fleet regrouped, Riker called a meeting of his senior officers aboard the Ironclad. Zora joined them, standing alongside Riker as the holographic map of the galaxy displayed the transmission's trajectory. "The signal is spreading fast," Riker said, pointing to the growing network of red dots on the map. "It's jumping from system to system, piggybacking on ancient communication relays like the one on Xerion 5. Whatever we just released isn't staying quiet." An older officer crossed his arms. "You think the eviscerators were the jailers, not the prisoners?" Riker nodded. "It's possible. And if that's true, we just broke open their cage." Zara's mind raced. The Xerions had sacrificed everything to stop the eviscerators, but they had also built a prison and hidden it under layers of misdirection. Why? What were they truly afraid of? "Do we have any idea where the signal is going?" Zara asked. Garen, who had accompanied her to the meeting, stepped forward. "It's heading toward the galactic core. Whatever it's activating, it's old. Older than the Xerions. And it's big." The sleeper awakens. As the fleet debated their next move, an emergency alert blared across the ships. A massive gravitational anomaly had appeared near the fleet's location. "Report," Riker barked. A junior officer's voice came through the comms, panicked. "Sir, something's coming through the rift. It's massive." The fleet's sensors detected a colossal object emerging from the anomaly, a dark, serpentine shape that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its surface was covered in ancient glyphs, pulsating with an unnatural energy. Zara stared at the display, her blood running cold. "What is that?" No one had an answer. The object, now fully visible, was a ship, or something resembling one. It dwarfed even the largest vessels in the Deathworlder fleet. Its presence radiated an overwhelming sense of malice, as if the void itself recoiled from it. Then came the voice. It didn't come through the comms. It was inside their heads, a deep, resonant tone that spoke in a language they didn't understand but somehow felt. "You have freed us. The harvest begins." The voice faded, and the ship began to move, its dark form gliding toward the edge of the system. Smaller objects, hundreds, then thousands, detached from its hull, swarming like locusts. "They're deploying," Riker shouted. "All ships, prepare for engagement. The battle for survival." The Deathworlder fleet opened fire as the swarm descended upon them. The smaller objects were fast and heavily armored, their movements unpredictable. Each time a Deathworlder ship destroyed one, two more took its place. Zara and her crew on the Lumina joined the fight, but the swarm was overwhelming. Plasma cannons and adaptive weaponry struggled to keep up with the sheer number of attackers. On the Ironclad, Riker coordinated the fleet's defense. "Focus fire on the mothership," he commanded. "If we take it out, the swarm might shut down." But as the fleet redirected its firepower, the mothership seemed to absorb the energy, its glyphs glowing brighter with each hit. "This isn't working," Zara shouted over the comms. Garen's voice cut in. "Captain, I have an idea. The signal from Xerion 5. If we can reverse its polarity, we might be able to disrupt the mothership's control over the swarm." "How long do you need?" Zora asked. 10 minutes, Garen replied. "You've got 5, Zora said, her jaw set. "Make it count." A desperate gamble. As Garen worked to modify the signal, Zara and Riker led a coordinated effort to protect the Lumina. The swarm focused its attacks on the ship, sensing the threat. The Deathworlders fought fiercely, their reputation as the galaxy's ultimate survivors on full display. Even against impossible odds, they refused to back down. Finally, Garen's voice came through. "It's ready. Transmitting now." The modified signal pulsed outward, a high-pitched frequency that made even the seasoned Deathworlder soldiers wince. The swarm froze mid-attack, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. The mothership's glyphs dimmed, its movements slowing as the signal took effect. "Keep firing," Riker yelled. The Deathworlder fleet unleashed everything they had. And this time, the mothership couldn't adapt. With a final, blinding explosion, the massive vessel disintegrated, taking the swarm with it. The aftermath. As the dust settled, Zara and Riker met aboard the Ironclad. The victory felt hollow. "This isn't over," Zara said, her voice quiet. "That signal is still out there. Whatever we stopped today was just the beginning." Riker nodded. "And now, the galaxy knows what humans are capable of." Zara stared out the viewport, her eyes fixed on the void where Xerion 5 once stood. Somewhere, deep in the galactic core, something was waiting, and it was awake. The final stand. The galaxy was on edge. The transmission from Xerion 5 had spread far and wide, activating ancient relay stations and awakening more hidden dangers. Across multiple sectors, strange gravitational anomalies were reported, accompanied by the appearance of dark, monolithic ships. The name Eviscerators was replaced with whispers of something far worse, the Hive Lords. For Captain Zorakale and Commander Jace Riker, there was no time to rest. The data recovered from Xerion 5 had pinpointed a final destination for the Hive Lord's fleet, the Galactic core, where a dormant superstructure, larger than any known station or planet, lay hidden. This superstructure, called the Core Nexus, had been built eons ago, predating the Xerion Collective. It was not a prison but a throne. The Hive Lords were not just tools of destruction. They were servants of a greater master, assembling the Alliance. The Deathworlders alone could not face this threat. Zara and Riker called for an emergency summit of the United Galactic Alliance. Leaders from hundreds of worlds gathered aboard the Ironclad, their faces a mix of fear and skepticism. "The Hive Lords are coming," Zara said, her voice echoing in the massive hall. "And they won't stop until the galaxy is consumed. This isn't just a Deathworlder problem. It's everyone's fight." A tall, reptilian ambassador hissed in response. "Why should we trust humans? You've unleashed this chaos. How do we know you won't turn against us after this threat is gone?" Before Zara could respond, Riker stepped forward, his commanding presence silencing the room. "Let me make one thing clear," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "We didn't unleash the Hive Lords. We stopped the Eviscerators when no one else could. And now, we're your best chance at survival. If you want to sit back and do nothing, fine. But don't expect to have a galaxy left when this is over." The room was silent. Slowly, one by one, the leaders agreed to join forces. The largest armada in galactic history was assembled, combining the firepower, technology, and courage of dozens of species. The approach to the Core Nexus. The combined fleet warped into the Galactic core, where the Hive Lord's superstructure loomed like a dark star. The Core Nexus radiated an unnatural energy that disrupted sensors and communications. Surrounding it was the Hive Lord's fleet, a massive armada of biomechanical ships bristling with adaptive weaponry. From the Nexus, a deep, resonant voice echoed through every ship's comms. "Every mind, every soul. Welcome. The harvest begins." The Hive Lord's fleet surged forward like a tidal wave, their ships swarming in unpredictable patterns. The combined galactic fleet opened fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness in a dazzling display of unity. Zara, aboard the Lumina, coordinated with other captains, directing firepower to critical targets. Beside her, Riker's Ironclad led the Deathworlder ships in daring assaults, their unique adaptability and resilience turning the tide in key skirmishes. The Nexus secret. As the battle raged, Garen, aboard the Lumina, deciphered transmissions coming from the Core Nexus. "Captain, the Nexus isn't just a superstructure," he said, his voice urgent. "It's alive. It's the Hive Lord's master, something they call the Prime Mind." "What does it want?" Zara asked. Garen's face paled. "It's not just controlling the Hive Lords. It's feeding off the destruction. Every death, every explosion. It's making it stronger." Zora's eyes narrowed. "How do we stop it?" "There's a central core deep inside the Nexus," Garen replied. "But it's protected by layers of shields and defenses. We'd need to break through the Hive Lord's fleet and send a strike team inside." Zara activated her comm, relaying the plan to Riker. His response was immediate. "Leave it to us. We'll clear a path. You get inside and finish this." The infiltration. Zara led a small strike team aboard a stealth shuttle, weaving through the chaos of the battle. The Deathworlder fleet unleashed everything they had, creating an opening just long enough for the shuttle to breach the Nexus. Inside, the structure was a nightmare of shifting corridors and pulsating walls, as if the Nexus was alive and reacting to their presence. Sentinel Prime, stored aboard the shuttle, guided them toward the central core. "You must act quickly," it warned. "The Prime Mind is aware of your intrusion." As they advanced, grotesque biomechanical creatures emerged to block their path. The team fought fiercely, their weapons cutting through wave after wave of attackers. Finally, they'd reached the central core, a massive glowing sphere suspended in a chamber that seemed to defy physics. Tendrils of energy extended from the sphere, pulsating with malevolent power. "This is it," Garen said, setting up the explosive charges. "Once these detonate, the entire nexus will collapse." Before they could finish, a deep, guttural voice filled the chamber. "Fools, you cannot destroy me. I am eternal." From the shadows, a towering figure emerged, the Prime Avatar, a manifestation of the Prime Mind itself. It was a horrific fusion of flesh and machinery, its glowing eyes filled with malice. Zara stepped forward, her rifle raised. "We've stopped everything you've thrown at us. You're next." The Avatar laughed, a sound that shook the chamber. "You will not survive this." The final battle. Zara and her team engaged the Avatar in a desperate fight. It moved with inhuman speed, its tendrils lashing out and tearing through the environment. Every hit it took seemed to make it angrier, its power intensifying. "We can't hold it off much longer," Garen shouted. Zora activated her comm. "Riker, we need backup." The Ironclad, battered but operational, responded. "Hold tight, Kale. We're coming." Moments later, a Deathworlder dropship crashed through the chamber ceiling, disgorging a squad of heavily armed Marines led by Riker himself. "Thought you could use a hand," he said, smirking. Together, they unleashed a coordinated assault on the Avatar, pushing it back toward the central core. "Garen, now!" Zara yelled. Garen activated the charges. The core began to destabilize, its glow turning from blue to blinding white. "We've got to move," Riker shouted. The team scrambled back to their shuttle as the Nexus began to collapse. The Avatar's screams echoed behind them, cut short as the core detonated in a massive explosion. A new dawn. The blast destroyed the Nexus and the Hive Lord's fleet, leaving the Galactic core eerily quiet. The combined fleet cheered as the enemy vanished, their unity and courage saving the galaxy from annihilation. Aboard the Lumina, Zara and Riker stood side by side, watching the debris field where the Nexus had been. "This isn't the end," Zara said quietly. "No," Riker agreed, "but it's a damn good start." In the distance, the faint remnants of the Prime Mind signal pulsed into the void, a haunting reminder that something darker still lurked in the depths of the galaxy.